Rick lived in a dry, dusty town near the edge of the desert. The town was small, with only one school, one clinic, and one dusty road that led in and out. Most people there worked in farming or helped transport goods from the nearby mining area. Rick worked with his uncle, digging trenches and setting up water pipes in the hard ground. It was tiring work, but he didn't complain. He liked the quiet. One hot afternoon, Rick was digging near the hills when his shovel hit something hard. He thought it was just a rock. He knelt down and brushed away the sand. It was not a rock. It was something silver, round and smooth. Rick pulled it out. It looked like a bracelet, but it was thicker than any bracelet he had ever seen. It had no lock or opening, and it was warm to the touch. "Looks expensive," Rick said to himself. He looked around. No one else was nearby. His uncle had gone to get more supplies. Rick held the bracelet in his hand for a few seconds. Then, without thinking too much, he slipped it onto his wrist. The bracelet fit perfectly. It adjusted by itself as if it was made for him. Rick was surprised, but he smiled. It looked cool. The silver surface had strange lines carved into it, almost like letters or symbols, but none that Rick understood. He waited for something to happen. Nothing did. It didn't glow or make any sound. It was just a bracelet. Rick stood up, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and kept working. When his uncle came back, Rick didn't mention the bracelet. He just said he found a metal ring and decided to keep it. His uncle laughed and said, "You can keep all the treasure you find as long as you finish your job." That night, after dinner, Rick sat on the roof of his small house. He looked at the stars like he always did. The desert sky was clear and the stars were bright. He turned the bracelet around his wrist. Still no sound, no glow, nothing strange. Then, just before he went back inside, he noticed something. The bracelet had become warm again. A soft line of light moved across it, very faint, like it was waking up. Rick stared at it. The light vanished. He tapped it a few times, but it stayed silent. He shrugged and went to bed. The next morning, things changed. It started with a deep rumble in the ground. Rick was outside early, helping carry some pipes to the storage shed. The ground shook under his feet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked around. It felt like a small earthquake, but there were no cracks, no damage. Just the sound, like something heavy moving under the earth. Then the sky turned dark. Not because of clouds. The sun was still shining. But something large was blocking the light. People looked up. They gasped. Rick looked up too and froze. 3 giant ships were floating above the desert hills. They were not airplanes. They were huge, dark, and smooth like metal whales. They made no sound, but the air felt heavy around them. Lights blinked along their sides. The center one opened slowly, and a beam of light shot down to the ground. Panic spread in the town. People ran inside their homes. Some shouted to call the police or the army. Others just stood and stared. Rick stood still, unable to move. His heart was beating fast. He had never seen anything like this before. From the light, shapes began to appear. 5 tall figures walked down the beam and touched the ground. They were not human. They had silver armor, long cloaks, and strange helmets that covered their faces. Their eyes glowed softly under the mask. They moved slowly but with purpose. They walked past everyone without saying a word. They scanned the area as if searching for something. When they came near Rick, one of them stopped. The others turned their heads toward him. The leader stepped forward and raised his hand. A soft light came out of his palm and pointed straight at Rick's wrist. The bracelet was glowing now, fully lit with bright symbols Rick couldn't read. He tried to pull his hand away, but it was no use. The bracelet was stuck. The tall figure removed his helmet. His skin was smooth and pale blue. His eyes were bright silver. He looked serious, but not angry. He bowed his head and said something in a language Rick didn't understand. Then he spoke again, this time in broken English. "You are the chosen." "Mate, we have found you," Rick blinked. "What?" The tall figure placed a hand over his chest and bowed again. "Welcome, chosen mate. The Empire greets you." People around gasped. Rick looked at his uncle, who was frozen with wide eyes. No one knew what was happening. The aliens all knelt down before Rick. They bowed their heads low, showing deep respect. Rick took a step back. "You must be wrong," he said. The leader stood up. "The bracelet is chosen. There's no mistake." Rick looked down at the glowing silver band. It pulsed like a living thing. He felt strange. Not scared, not hurt, just confused and full of questions. Why him? What did it mean? And why did these strange aliens act like he was someone important? The leader turned and raised a small device. A circle of light opened behind him. Rick saw stars, strange walls, and the inside of a ship. The leader held out his hand. "Come. Your place is with us." Rick looked at the light, then at his town, his home, and finally at the bracelet again. He didn't know it yet, but his life was about to change forever. Rick stood frozen at the edge of the glowing circle. It looked like a door made of light. Behind it, the inside of the alien ship waited, clean and bright, with metal walls and strange shapes he had never seen before. The tall alien stood beside the portal, still holding out his hand. His silver eyes watched Rick closely. People in the town were whispering. Some were hiding behind cars and walls. Others peeked from windows. No one moved. No one spoke loudly. It felt like time had stopped. Rick's heart beat hard in his chest. He had never been more confused in his life. He was just a worker, just a quiet man in a small town. Why would aliens come for someone like him? He took a small step back. "I think you made a mistake," he said again. "I don't know anything about your empire. I don't want to go anywhere." The alien didn't answer right away. He lowered his hand and touched the bracelet on Rick's wrist. A gentle hum came from it. Then the alien pressed something on his belt, and a soft voice came from the air. "You are not chosen by accident," the voice said. It was a woman's voice, calm, soft, and clear. "The bracelet speaks. You carry the mark. You are the one we waited for." Rick looked at the bracelet. The lines on it were glowing again. Slowly, the band tightened on his wrist, like it was, making sure it wouldn't fall off. Rick tried to twist it off, but it didn't move. The metal felt warm, almost alive. A second alien stepped forward. This one was smaller and moved more gently. When the helmet came off, Rick saw a woman with smooth green skin and long dark hair tied behind her head. Her eyes were deep purple and kind. "My name is Tira," she said in perfect English. "I was trained to speak your language. I can help you understand." Rick stared at her. "What do you want from me?" Tira stepped closer but kept her hands low to show peace. "We want only to bring you to our home world. You are not a prisoner. You are honored. The bracelet you wear is older than our oldest temples. It chooses only one. It has chosen you." Rick shook his head. "But I don't know you. I didn't ask for this." Tira nodded. "I know. That is why we ask you to come and see for yourself. If you wish to return, we will bring you back, but you must come first. The Empire waits." Rick looked around. The townspeople were still watching. His uncle stepped forward and whispered, "You don't have to go. We can call the army." Rick looked at the ships above. The size of them made him feel like an ant. He didn't think any army could help now. He also felt something strange deep in his chest, a pull, like a quiet voice calling him forward. He looked at Tira again. "You promise to bring me back if I ask?" Tira bowed her head. "Yes, you have my word." Rick took a deep breath. His life was quiet before, maybe too quiet. He had no family except his uncle, no big plans, no big dreams. He looked at the glowing door, then stepped forward. I'll go, he said. Ira smiled. The tall alien touched a device, and the portal pulsed brighter. Rick walked through it. The light surrounded him. For a moment, everything was white. Then the world changed. He found himself inside the alien ship. The air was cool and smelled like metal. The floor was smooth and lit from underneath. The ceiling was high, shaped like a dome. Walls moved like glass, shifting between colors and pictures. Tira walked beside him. "This is our command ship," she said. "We call it the Star Path." The tall alien followed them. "I am Varan," he said, "captain of the Royal Guard." Rick looked around. Many aliens walked through the ship. Some had green skin like Tira, others were blue or golden. Some looked half-human. All of them bowed when they saw Rick. It made him feel strange. Why are they doing that? He asked. Dira stopped beside a clear window. Outside, Rick saw stars. The Earth was already far behind. "You were the chosen band," she said. 2. US, you are more than just a person. You are a sign of hope. A sign that the old stories were true. "What stories?" Rick asked. Tira looked serious. "Long ago, one of our rulers made a bond with someone from your world, a human. He was brave and kind, but he disappeared. Since then, the Empire waited for a new bond to awaken the royal power. That power sleeps now. Only the chosen can wake it." "Only you," Rick frowned. "I'm not brave. I'm not a hero." Tira smiled gently. "You may not believe it yet. But the bracelet chose you for a reason." Varan stepped closer. "Your arrival was seen in the stars. Many will be glad, but not all. Some fear the old power. Some will test you." Rick felt a cold chill. "What kind of test?" "You will see," Varan said. The ship moved smoothly through space. Rick followed Tira and Varan down a wide hall. At the end, a door opened to a soft room with lights like candles and a bed shaped like a shell. Tira placed a hand on her chest. "You may rest here," she said. "We arrive at the royal world in 2 sun turns. If you need anything, press the light on the wall." Rick nodded slowly. "Thank you." Tira and Varan left. The door closed with a soft hum. Rick sat on the strange bed and stared at the bracelet. It no longer glowed, but it still felt warm. He looked out the small window. Stars moved slowly past. He did not know what waited ahead. He did not know why the bracelet chose him. But deep inside, a quiet part of him whispered that this was only the beginning. Rick sat quietly in the room they gave him. The bed was soft and shaped like a giant flower. The lights on the walls changed color slowly, from blue to green to white. The window showed the stars moving past. It was beautiful, but Rick felt strange. He was not sure if he had made a mistake by stepping into the alien ship. He touched the bracelet again. It was calm now, no light, no sound, but it still felt warm on his skin. He tried pulling it off, but it didn't move. It had locked around his wrist like it had always belonged there. There was a knock at the door. It slid open, and Tira walked in holding a silver tray. She smiled and said, "I brought food. It is safe for humans." Rick sat up. "Thanks. I didn't know if I was hungry, but now I think I am." Tira placed the tray on a small table. There were strange fruits, soft bread, and a clear drink that smelled like honey. Rick tasted one fruit. It was sweet, like a mix of apple and melon. Tira sat across from him. "You must have many questions." Rick nodded. "I have too many. Why me? Why this bracelet? What does chosen mate even mean?" Tira looked at the bracelet. The chosen band is not just metal. It is a living artifact, built long ago by our ancient people. It waits for someone with the right heart, someone strong in spirit, to bond with it. Rick raised an eyebrow. "Strong in spirit? I'm just a worker from a desert town. I dig holes and fix pipes." Tira smiled. Sometimes great power finds quiet people. Long ago, a human came to our world by accident. He helped save one of our rulers. The bracelet linked to him, but he disappeared before the bond could be finished. Disappeared how? Rick asked. No one knows, she said softly. Some believe he was taken. Others say he left on purpose. But the bracelet went dark and was lost for many years. Until now. Rick looked down at his wrist. So I'm just the next one it found? Tira shook her head. It didn't find anyone for hundreds of years. You are not a random choice. The band does not wake unless it senses something deep inside a person. Rick stood up and walked to the window. So now what? I just become part of your empire? I don't know your people. I don't know your ways. You don't need to decide yet, Tira said kindly. When we reach the royal world, you will meet the queen. She will guide you. If you still wish to return home after that, we will take you. Rick turned and asked, Is she the one I'm supposed to be the mate of? Tira paused. The queen waits for her bond to be completed. The band links her spirit to the chosen one. You are the first it has accepted since the last human. But the choice is not forced. The bond only forms if both agree. Rick sat down again. His head was full of thoughts. What happens if I say no? Then the band may sleep again, Tira said. And the queen may remain in her deep rest. The empire will face its future without the power of the bond. Rick rubbed his forehead. You speak of power like it's something real. What kind of power? Tira looked serious. When the bond is made, both hearts join. The queen gains strength, wisdom, and vision. The chosen one gains understanding, protection, and the ability to speak through her. Together, they lead. Alone, they fade. The ship shook slightly. A calm voice came from the ceiling. Approaching gate. Entering light bridge in 1 minute. Tira stood. We are crossing into the royal sector. Come to the viewing deck. You should see it. Rick followed her through the long halls. The floor lit up with each step. The doors opened without touch. As they walked, more aliens looked at Rick and bowed. Some smiled. Some looked curious. A few looked worried. The viewing deck was wide and full of glass walls. Rick stepped forward and gasped. Outside, space was folding into colors he had never seen before. It was like looking into a river of light. Stars spun in curves. A giant ring-shaped structure floated ahead, shining with gold and blue lights. Ships passed through it and vanished. Tira pointed. That is the light gate. It opens the way to our home world. The ship moved toward the gate. As it entered, a bright wave of energy washed over the windows. Rick felt it in his bones, like a deep vibration. The stars stretched, and in a blink, they were in a new place. Ahead of them, a green and silver planet floated in space. It had glowing rings and 4 moons. Towers rose from its surface, so tall that they touched the clouds. Rick had never seen anything so beautiful. Tira whispered, Welcome to Miral, home of the Empire. The ship began to land. As they moved closer, Rick saw flying creatures, glowing plants, and rivers of light. Cities floated above forests. Roads moved on their own. It looked like a dream. The ship touched down near a crystal palace. Its walls were made of clear stone, and lights danced inside it. Rick stepped out with Tira and Varan. A group of soldiers stood in line, armor shining, weapons lowered. Tira pointed to the grand steps. The queen sleeps inside. You will meet her soon. Are you ready? Rick took a deep breath. His heart was beating fast. He had left his world behind only yesterday. Now he was standing on another planet, about to meet a sleeping queen who might be waiting for him. I don't know if I'm ready, he said, but I'm here. Tira nodded. That is enough. They began walking toward the crystal doors. Behind them, the Empire watched. Ahead of them, something ancient waited to wake. Rick walked slowly through the crystal doors. The light inside the palace was soft and golden. Everything sparkled. The walls looked like glass, but they felt strong like stone. The floor was smooth and cold under his feet. Strange symbols moved. Across the walls like water, glowing faintly, Tira walked beside him. Her voice was calm. "This place is the Heart Hall. Only the royal blood may enter, unless the band allows it." Voran walked behind them, silent and watchful. His eyes never stopped moving. He seemed ready to fight at any moment. Rick looked. Around, the air smelled like flowers and rain. The sounds were quiet, like whispers carried by wind. There were no guards inside, no noise. Only peace. At the end of the hall stood a tall archway. A soft mist floated around it. In the center was a round door covered in blue crystals. Tira stopped in front of it. "She is inside," she said softly. Rick took a deep breath. "She is still asleep?" Tira nodded. "She has been in sleep for many years. The band connects to her. Your arrival has already touched her mind. She waits for your voice." Voran stepped forward. "We will remain here. You must enter alone." Rick looked at the glowing bracelet. It pulsed with a slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. He stepped toward the crystal door. As he raised his hand, the crystals lit up and the door slid open without sound. Inside was a round chamber. The walls were curved, and the light came from the ceiling, falling like soft sunlight. In the center of the room floated a figure. She was not standing or lying down. She was held in the air by streams of blue energy. The woman had golden skin and silver hair that floated gently around her. Her body was covered in thin fabric that shimmered like morning dew. Her eyes were closed. She looked peaceful, almost like she was dreaming. Rick stepped closer. The bracelet on his wrist glowed brighter. The light reached out like a thread, touching the streams around her. A gentle hum filled the air. The woman stirred. Her eyes opened. They were the color of the sky before dawn, soft and deep. She looked at Rick, and something passed between them. Rick felt warmth in his chest, a feeling like he was being seen for the first time in his life. Her voice entered his mind, not through ears, but through thought. "You are real," she said. Rick took a step back. "Who are you?" "I am Myra, ruler of Miral, keeper of the bond, and you are the chosen." "I didn't ask for this," Rick said. "I found the bracelet by accident. The band does not act without reason," she said. "It searches, it waits, then it calls. And now it has called you." Rick looked down. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do." Mira's voice was gentle. "You are not here to follow orders. You are here to choose. Our bond is not a chain, it is a path. If you walk it with me, we rise together. If you refuse, I return to sleep, and the Empire faces the storm without its light." "What storm?" Rick asked. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "The Empire stands on the edge of division. Old enemies gather strength. The nobles fight for power. Only the true bond can bring unity. That bond needs two." Rick looked at her. "So you need me?" "Yes, but not just for duty. The band links more than power. It links hearts, minds, truth. If we do not trust each other, the bond breaks." Rick stepped closer. "And if I trust you? What happens then?" Mira slowly floated down until her feet touched the floor. The energy faded. She stood in front of him now, only one step away. She raised her hand and placed it gently on the bracelet. The symbols on it glowed bright gold. "Then the bond will wake fully. And I will rise not just as a queen, but as your equal. Together we will face what comes." Rick's heart beat fast. He did not understand everything, but he felt something deep inside. A pull. A quiet truth. He looked into her eyes. "I don't know if I'm ready," he said. She smiled. "Readiness is not measured by knowledge. It is measured by the heart." Rick nodded slowly. Then let's try. The bracelet flashed once with a strong light. The symbols moved across Rick's arm, then faded gently. Mira closed her eyes. A wave of energy burst from the center of the room and spread across the palace. Outside the chamber, Tira and Varan felt the floor shake slightly. Tira smiled. She is awake. The doors opened. Rick stepped out, followed by Mira. Her presence filled the hall with light. The guards outside knelt at once. Servants bowed deeply. Even the wind seemed to grow still. Varan lowered his head. "My queen," Mira raised her hand. "No more sleep. The time of waiting is over." She turned to Rick. "You will walk with me?" Rick nodded. "I will." She looked ahead. "Then we begin." Far across the stars, in a dark corner of space, another ship watched from the shadows. Inside it, a tall figure stood before a screen. "She has awakened," he said. A soldier beside him asked, "Shall we begin the plan, Lord Darak?" The tall figure smiled coldly. "Yes, the false mate will fall, and the throne will be mine." The sun over Miral rose slowly, shining light across the palace towers and crystal lakes. Birds with glowing wings flew above the gardens. People gathered in the streets below, staring at the great screens that floated in the air. The message was clear. The queen had awakened. Inside the palace, Mira walked beside Rick through the royal garden. Her steps were calm, but her eyes were full of focus. Every flower turned toward her as she passed. Rick followed her, feeling unsure but stronger than before. The bracelet on his wrist felt like it had truly accepted him. Tira walked behind them, holding a small tablet that showed news across the empire. She looked worried. "There are mixed reactions," she said. "Many are joyful, but some of the outer lords are silent. Especially Lord Darak." Mira stopped walking. She turned to Tira. "He has waited for this moment. Now he will make his move." Rick stepped closer. "Who is he?" Mira's voice was calm. "Darak is a noble with old blood. He believes the throne should be his. He has waited for my death or my failure. But now I have returned, and the bond has chosen. He will not stay silent." Rick looked around. The peaceful garden felt far from danger, but he knew something was coming. "What does he want?" Tira answered. "He wants control. If he can break the bond or remove you, he may claim the crown." Mira looked at Rick. "You are not just a symbol now. You are a key. With you, I can lead. Without you, I may be forced to step down." Rick looked at the bracelet. "So he'll try to come for me?" "Yes," Mira said. Later that day, a message came. It was sent from one of Darak's ships. It showed Darak sitting on a high seat. His armor was dark red, and his eyes sharp like ice. "I give you one warning," he said. "Send the human away. The band belongs to our people. If he stays, I will not allow it." Mira did not reply. She simply turned off the screen. That night, the palace guards were doubled. Drones flew above the city. The people lit lanterns in support of their queen. But not all lights were friendly. In the deep corner of the palace, Rick sat alone in his room. He stared at the stars outside. His thoughts were heavy. He had come so far from home, and now he was the target of a powerful enemy. A soft knock came. Mira entered without guards. She wore a simple robe, and her hair was tied back. She sat beside him. "I can't sleep either," she said. Rick nodded. "I feel like something is coming." Mira placed her hand on his wrist. The bracelet glowed. Softly, "It is coming, but you are not alone." Rick looked at her. "Why did the band choose a human? Why not someone from your own world?" Mira smiled gently. "Maybe it sees what we cannot. Humans feel deeply. You choose not by blood or law, but by heart. That is the power we lost over time." Rick sighed. "I still don't know if I can help. I'm not strong. I've never fought in my life." Mira looked into his eyes. "You don't need to be a fighter. You need to stand, and you already have. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The wall screen flashed. A loud alarm rang through the palace. Tira's voice came through the speaker. Enemy breach. Sector 3, repeat, enemy breach. Mira stood at once. He came faster than we expected. Rick followed her out of the room. The halls were full of guards. Some were fighting already. Lasers lit up the air. Mira led Rick through a back passage, hidden behind a mirror wall. We need to reach the command center, she said. They ran through tunnels filled with blue light. The floor shook with blasts. Rick felt fear rising, but he kept moving. Mira stayed calm, her focus strong. They reached the control room. Tira was already there, guiding the defense. Derek's men are inside. They came through a stolen code. We are locking the lower levels. Rick stepped to the window. Outside, he saw small ships flying around the palace. One crashed into a wall. Smoke rose into the sky. Varan entered, wounded but still standing. Derek is not here yet, but his second captain has reached the West Tower. Mira nodded. He wants to split our forces. Suddenly the screen changed. Derek appeared again. You hide behind the bond, he said. But I know the truth. That human cannot hold it. He is weak. I will break him and take what is mine. Rick stared at the screen. For the first time, he felt something rising inside. Not fear, not doubt, but anger. He stepped forward. You don't even know me, Derek laughed. I don't need to. The throne is not for outsiders. Rick raised his wrist. The bracelet glowed again, brighter than ever before. A pulse of light came from it, spreading through the room. The screen flickered and shut down. Everyone looked at Rick. Tira whispered. That was the bond's core wave. It answered his challenge. Mira touched Rick's hand. The bond is waking more with you. It sees your strength. Just then, a blast shook the room. The door cracked. Derek's soldiers had reached them. Varan raised his weapon. They're coming. Mira turned to Rick. There is a tunnel behind. The control deck. Take it. I will hold them. No, Rick said. We go together. Mira looked at him. Then she smiled. Then we faced them side by side. The door burst open. Rick and Mira stood ready, the bracelet shining between them. The soldiers charged, but something was different now. The bond had awakened. And with it, so had Rick. The palace corridors echoed with the sound of heavy boots and the clashing of weapons. Rick and Mira stood back to back, surrounded by Derek's soldiers. Their faces were hard and angry, their eyes full of hate. Rick could feel the bracelet on, his wrist growing warm, as if it was alive and ready. Mira raised her hand, and a soft light spread from her palm. The soldiers stopped for a moment, confused. The light moved like waves, slowing their steps and making their weapons feel heavy. Rick watched in surprise. Mira's power was real and strong. One soldier tried to charge forward, but he stumbled and fell. Mira's eyes glowed softly. You must stop this, she said quietly. Rick took a deep breath. I don't know how to fight like you do. But I won't run. He felt the bracelet pulse. Suddenly, he knew. The light from the bracelet was not just for show. It gave him strength. He raised his hands and focused. A shield of light formed around him, strong and clear. The soldiers tried to break through, but the shield held. Rick smiled. I can do this. Mira nodded. The bond grows with trust. We must protect each other. Suddenly, Varan burst into the room, holding a small device. The tunnel is clear. We can escape and regroup. Mira looked at Rick. We must go now. They moved quickly through the halls. The sounds of battle faded behind them. Outside, the sky was darkening with the coming night. The city lights below flickered like stars. Rick followed Mira and Varan to a hidden door. It led to an old service tunnel, narrow and dusty. The air smelled of metal and earth. As they walked, Mira spoke. Derek's attack was only the start. He has allies in the council. They want the Empire weak. Rick listened. How can we fight them all? Mira smiled softly. Together. The tunnel opened into a small clearing outside the palace walls. Guards waited, ready to help. Rick looked up at the stars. He missed his home but knew this was where he belonged now. Suddenly, alarms rang from the city. Tira's voice came over the communicator. Enemy ships approaching the city. Derek's fleet is near. Myra's face grew serious. We must warn the people and prepare for battle. Rick felt the bracelet pulse again. He touched it gently. I want to help. Tell me what to do, Tira answered quickly. There is a training room nearby. You will learn to use the band's power. Rick nodded and followed Mira back inside. The halls were quiet now, but tension filled the air. In the training room, strange machines and glowing symbols covered the walls. Tira stood by a control panel. Bracelet users have different gifts, she said. The band chooses what it gives. It can heal, protect, or fight. Rick took a deep breath and focused on the bracelet. A soft light rose from it. He felt warmth spread through his body, like the sun on his skin. Suddenly, a small burst of energy shot from his hands. He knocked over a training dummy. Rick laughed. I didn't expect that, Tira smiled. You have power, but you must learn control. For hours, Rick practiced. He learned to raise shields, send pulses of light, and sense the energy around him. Mira watched quietly, her eyes full of hope. Later, Tira brought news. Derek's fleet is attacking the city gates. They will reach us soon. Mira stood. We must lead the defense. Rick felt his heart beat faster. This was no longer a story or a dream. This was real. The battle for the Empire had begun. They walked to the command center, where soldiers prepared weapons and ships. The air was thick with smoke and fear. Varan handed Rick a helmet. You will need this. Rick put it on. The world changed. The helmet showed maps, enemy positions, and the power of the band. It felt like a new part of him. Mira stood beside him. We fight not just for power, but for peace. Rick nodded. For the Empire. Outside, the sky was filled with fire. Ships clashed in the air. Lasers and explosions lit the darkness. Rick focused on the bracelet. He sent a wave of light toward the enemy ships. Some faltered and fell. Others charged harder. Mira used her power to protect the city. Her light formed shields over the buildings. Soldiers moved with courage. The battle raged on. Rick felt tired but stronger than ever. The band's power grew with every moment. Suddenly, a voice came through the communicator. Derek has landed. He is heading for the palace. Mira's eyes narrowed. We must stop him. Rick and Mira led a small team toward the palace. The halls were filled with smoke and debris. Derek's soldiers fought fiercely. At the grand hall, Derek waited. His armor was cracked, but his eyes burned with rage. You cannot stop me, he said. The band belongs to our people. Rick stepped forward. The band belongs to those who believe in it. Derek charged. Rick raised his shield and sent a blast of light. The two forces collided in a flash. The fight was hard and fast. Rick and Derek matched each other's power. But Rick had something Derek did not: the bond with Myra. Together, Rick and Mira pushed Derek back. The power of their bond was strong and true. Finally, Derek fell to his knees. He looked at Rick with anger and defeat. You may have won today, he said. But the Empire will never be the same. Mira helped Rick stand. The Empire is stronger. Because of the bond, because of trust. Rick looked at the bracelet. It glowed softly. I am ready for what comes next. The battle was over, but the war for the Empire's future had just begun. The battle was over, but the air was still thick with tension. Rick stood beside Mira on the palace balcony, looking down at the city of Miral. The sun was rising. painting the sky in soft pink and gold. The city below was quiet now, but its people had survived the storm. Mira looked at Rick with calm eyes. Today we faced our greatest enemy. But tomorrow we build the future. Rick nodded. The bracelet on his wrist felt warm and alive. It was no longer just a piece of metal. It was part of him now. It had chosen him for a reason. Will Derek return? Rick asked. Myra smiled softly. There will always be those who seek power without care. But the bond is stronger than fear. It binds us together. Rick looked at the people below, walking through the streets and rebuilding what was lost. He felt hope grow inside him. That day, Mira called the Council of Nobles to meet in the Grand Hall. They were the leaders of the Empire, many still unsure about Rick. But now, after the battle, their respect was clear. Rick stood beside Mira as she spoke. The bond is not just between me and Rick. It is between all of us. It is a promise to protect this empire and its people. The nobles listened quietly. Some nodded. Others still looked unsure, but the power in Mira's voice was strong. After the meeting, Rick walked through the city with Tira and Varan. He saw families helping each other, children laughing despite the hard days. It reminded him of home. I never thought I could do this, Rick said quietly. I was just a simple man. Now I lead with a queen. Tira smiled. The band finds those who can grow. You have already done more than you know. Voron added. The Empire is watching you. They see your strength. Days passed, and Rick trained more with the band's power. He learned to listen to the light inside him and to share it with others. Mira stood by his side, teaching him about the Empire's history and its hopes. One evening, as the twin moons rose in the sky, Rick and Mira stood on the balcony again. The stars shone bright above them. Do you miss your home? Mira asked. Softly, Rick thought for a moment. Yes, but this place feels like home now, because of you. Because of what we share. Mira took his hand. The band on his wrist glowed gently. Together, we bring a new dawn. Suddenly, a messenger arrived with urgent news. A distant planet in the Empire's territory had declared rebellion. The peace was fragile. Mira turned to Rick. Our work is not done. The Empire needs us, Rick nodded. Then we go, together. They prepared their ship and gathered their closest allies. The stars awaited them. As they left Miral's orbit, Rick looked back at the shining planet. It was no longer just an alien world. It was their home, their future. The bracelet on his wrist pulsed with steady light. It was a sign of hope, strength, and unity. Rick smiled. He was ready. The Empire would rise again.